Join me as we learn together, learning Chitas for Monday, the second Torah reading of Parshas Vayishlach, chapter 32, verse 14. Yesterday we discussed where Yaakov sent angels to see where his brother Esav was at in his relationship with him. They came back telling him that he's coming with 400 men, and Yaakov devises a plan, a three-point strategy, sending him gifts, preparing for war, and praying to Hashem. He spent the night there. He now implementing the next morning the following strategy of taking what he selected from what he had, to send a present, a gift, to Esav, his brother. Rashi, haboli yadoi, Bershusei. It doesn't literally mean what he had in his hand, but it means in his domain, what he owned. V'chein, we find this in other places as well, where the terminology vayikach is called artzei miyodei, that he took all his land from his hand. It doesn't mean that he was holding it in his hand, from his property. Medrash agata, as we find in the Medrash, says, why does he use the terminology min haba biyodei, specifically from his hand? Avonim tevis margolis shadam tsar b'tzur v'neisam biyodei, that he sent him precious stones and diamonds, that a person wraps them in a handkerchief and keeps them with him and carries them with him at all times. That means, besides sending him all the other things that we find that are mentioned in the actual Torah, it tells us as well he sent them some diamonds. Davar acher, another explanation the Medrash can give, min haba biyodei min hachulin, shenatul meiser. What does it mean that he had with his hand? It means that after he already tithed, the remainder was there that he was able to send a gift from. Kemo at the Omar, as it says, as he said before in verse 28, in verse 22 in chapter 28, that everything that you give to me, I will then tithe. V'hodar, only after he tithed, lokach mincha, did he take a gift and send it off to his brother. What did he send as the gift? The Torah now tells us in verse 15, Izi Masayim, 200 she-goats, Usyashim Esrim, and 20 he-goats, male goats, Rechelim Osayim, and 20 rams, Rechelim Osayim, and 20 ewes, 20 sheep, Elim Esrim, and 20 rams. The Torah in Rashi explains, what's this number? Why do you see that, if you notice, there are much more females than males that he sent? And Rashi is going to explain, because every male becomes pregnant, impregnates more females. As follows. Mosayim izim, why 200 female goats? Tzrichims ezrim trashim, they need 20 male goats to make them pregnant. V'chein kulam, and so, but you'll see by the older one. Hascharim kedei tzerech hanekeves, you need fewer males, but for much more females, and each one according to its nature and according to its kind. And the Medrash Rabbah explains and learns from here the laws of Ona Hamur B'Torah. The Torah tells us that when a woman and a man marry, there's a contractual agreement of what the man has to give the woman Ona, of times of being intimate with his wife, a certain amount of times. And thereby the Talmud and the Medrash explains and expounds based on this verse when they are needed. And says as follows. Hatayolim, the people who don't have hard work, they are just tourists or they enjoy eating and drinking. B'chol yoyim, every single day they have that responsibility. Hapoyalim, the peoples that work in the city. Shtayim b'Shabbos, twice a week. Hachamorim, the people who are peddlers or they're couriers, they carry things from place to place. Achas b'Shabbos, once a week. Hagamalim, the people that take heavier loads and go for a longer distance of time, and they use camels for that. Achas l'shleishim yom, once every 30 days. Hasapanim, those that go on the ship, that means they're going for a further distance. Achas l'shisha chadashim, they're only obligated once every 6 months. However, Rashi notes here, I don't see exactly how the Medrash was able to surmise from this interpretation about the obligations that one must have in Oina. But it seems to me, Shalamadnu, Mikan, that they did not learn it from here, but this is only a general idea. That every person is not equal when it comes to that obligation of oina for his wife. Because it depends on the person's individual of what his responsibilities are to sustain his family. We see this because we see that Jacob gave for every male goat, he gave them 10 goats, and for every male ram, he gave them 10 sheep. So you see, why did he split it up this way? Because they have no work to do. Because they're not busy working in the field. Because of that, they have time. When they have time in their hands, they're able to impregnate even 10 females. And there's a rule that once a animal becomes impregnated, it no longer is able to connect to another male. Because of that, he had to give so many. You don't find any cows here. In the next verse, when he talks about the cows, you'll see that he only gives 4 cows per male cow. And that is because they are working, so therefore they have less time to impregnate the females. And for the donkey that goes a very far distance, he goes 2 females for every male. And for the camels that go even further, the keva achas, just 1 female per male. So we see Rashi wants to allude that this is where the Medrash got its a deduction, or that it came with its opinion that each person is different, is based that we see that the different animals got different amounts of different amounts of females per male. Further in the Chumash, verse 16, Gemal menikes, 30 nursing camels, ubenehem shloishim, ubenehem, and with their young, shloishim pares, 30 ubenehem shloishim, and their young 30 male camels that came along with them. Pares arboim, 40 cows, upari masara, and 10 bulls. Asainis esrim, the 20 she donkeys, vayarim asara, and then there were 10 male donkeys. The Torah now, Rashi explains what is he telling us over here about the camels. Why by the camels does he not mention the male and the female explicitly? So Rashi explains as follows: B'nei imoim, when it comes to the camels, he says their children with them. Umedrash agad, and the Medrash explains Ubeneim, meaning Baneim, the male camels, the ones that build a family. Zachar keneged keva, male for female. Because a camel, the way it behaves during intimacy, it is very modest. Therefore, the Torah does not explicitly say, and it only calls it their children or those that build them, because the Torah is alluding to the modesty and the proper, appropriate talk for the camel. What are ayarim? Rashi tells us chamoirim scharim, male donkeys. Verse 17. Vayitem biyad avodav, and he put all these in charge of his servants, Eider levade, drove by drove, herd by herd, on their own. Vayomer lelavodav, and he said to his servants, Ivru lefanai, go on ahead of me, verevach tasimu bein Eider and Eider, and keep a distance between one drove and the next. Rashi, Gemali menikes shloish, 17, Rashi 17. Eider levade. Why did he not bunch them all together? Kol minu min la'atzma. He made every kind of animal a separate pile, a separate herd that would go on its own. Ivru lefanai, go before me. Derech yemei pachus, a day or two, at least a day or so. Vani aveyacharechem, and I will then come after you. Verevach tasimu, leave a space. Why did he want that there should be a space and it should be noticeable, a space between the two herds? Eider lefnei chavedim milei rayasayin. He wanted that each herd to be separate, at least from the distance of seeing. So when you see one, you shouldn't see the next one. What was this for, and why did he do this? To be able to satisfy the eyes of the evil. He should wonder, and he should say, wow, That means he sees one, he doesn't even see the other one coming. And as soon as he gets one, then he starts seeing the other one coming. Like this, he's getting excited and he's wondering how much more are going to come. If he would see all of them at once, the surprise effect will be less. The wow factor wouldn't be as great. Verse 18. And he commanded the first one, he instructed the first one as follows. Lamer saying, when you will meet my brother Esav. He's going to ask you, Lamer saying, Lemiata, who are you? Whose man are you? And where are you headed? And who are these droves, these gifts that you're sending in front of you? Who's sending them? Rashi, Lemiata, Shel miata. Who do you belong to? Mi shelechecha. Who is the one that sent you? Targumai, like the Targum says, the man at. Who do you belong to? Ulumi eila lefanecha ve'eila shelefanecha. These that are here before you, shalmiim. Who do they belong to? Lami min chazei shlucha. Who is this gift intended? Lamed, in this case, the lamed mishameshes bereisha teva kemakim shel. You're wondering why how do I get to that translation? Rashi says because the lamed limi is telling you to whom. Whatever you see belongs to me. Shalihu belongs to me. Hashem, to God, the world, and everything exists. Lashel Hashem, it belongs to Hashem. Verse 19. V'amarta, and you will say, Lavdachal Yaakov, this is from your servant Yaakov. Minchi shluchal adoni, this is a gift sent to my master Esav Esav. Not only that, v'hine gam hu acharenu, he is also himself. Yaakov is right behind us. V'amarta lavdachal Yaakov, you will command Esav saying, Al nisha nisha, you'll answer the first question first, v'alachrin achrin, and last question last. Shesha'alta is going to ask you, Limiata, who do these belong to? You'll say, Lavdachal Yaakov, and I belong to your servant Yaakov, the Avdach Yaakov. Like the Targum, the Aramaic translation is, your servant Yaakov. Al Shesha'alta, when he asks you, who do these gifts belong to? You'll answer, Mincha Shlucha, this is a gift coming along. Hine gamhu. This is talking about the messenger that's coming with the future herd. He says it's not talking about more herds coming. V'hine gamhu. Who is that? Yaakov is coming behind us, and he will be there. And he told us also to the second one, gamas ashlishi, also to the third, gamas kol ha'ilchem achrei adorim. Any of them that were following behind the droves. Kadavar hazet tedaber al Esav, like this. With such words, you should speak to Esau. When you meet him. Verse 21. You'll say, behold, also your servant Yaakov is right behind us. Because he said, Achapra fanav. The mincha, I will appease him with all the gifts. That goes before me that I sent ahead. But only afterwards. Fanav, will I face him? Maybe he will show favor to me. Achapra fanav. What does it mean, my face? Avatel, I will be able to remove. Reigse is anger. V'chupar v'chein, the same thing you also find the word v'chupar means to remove. V'chupar brischam es mavis, that God will take away the covenant of death. Le'such le'kapari, will not be able to remove the sin, the evil. V'nira b'chein, v'ina b'einayin. It seems to me, shekol kapara shu eitzel avin v'chet, that any time you find the terminology kapara, even by a sin, the eitzel panim, and also by face, kul lashin kinuach, they all mean to cleanse, the havara, and to remove. So the word kapara, which means to remove or to cleanse, whether it's by a sin or in this case as well, that he's trying to remove the anger that he may have against him. We see this is based in the Aramaic language, Lashon Arami, the harbe lumid v'chofra yodei, and boyle kupure yodei b'hagavra, he wanted to clean his hands with that individual. V'gam b'lashon hamikra, we also find this in the words of the verse, where the word kippur means to cleanse, nikroim hamizrakim shel kodesh kippur izav, that the different instruments that were used for the blood were called gold cleansing items. Al shem shakoyim mekaneich yodav b'sfas hamizrak, and that was because on these type of vessels that they used to use to take off the blood, the Kohen would wipe his hand, cleaning his hand from the blood that was on it, on the side, on the rim of the vessel. Verse 22. Vatavir amincha al panav, and so the gifts passed ahead of him. V'hu lon, and he spent the night Ba'alayla hu, on that night, he rested that night, b'machana, in the camp. Rashi, verse 22, Al panav, k'moy lifanav, like before, v'chein chametz v'sheid yishama bana ba'al panay tamid, that there will be thievery. He quotes a verse of Jeremiah about things being there constant. V'chein amachisim v'yisal panim, those that get angry at me constantly. Umedrash agada, the Medrash explains, Al panav comes from the word of anger. Af hu shari bekastan. Even Yaakov was upset, was angered by the fact that Esav caused him to do all this, meaning that he had to use so much effort to be able to appease Esav. Verse 23. That night he got up, and he took his 2 wives, and the 2 bondswomen, and his 11 children, his 11 sons, and he crossed over the ford of Yabok River. Why does it only mention about his 11 sons? Didn't we mention that he had a daughter as well? Vidina, heichan haisa, where was Dina? So the Torah tells us, he locked her up in a box, Shalita Esav, that Esav shouldn't see her and desire her. And because of that, Yaakov was punished. That he held her back from her father. Maybe she could have influenced Esav to correct himself, to be better, and therefore to do teshuvah. Because he didn't use that opportunity, she then was raped and captured by the people of Shechem. Interesting thing, that why was it that he was only concerned about Dinah? Why didn't then Leah marry Esav if she was able to bring him back to teshuvah? Why wasn't Leah concerned? Why was Leah concerned that she was going to marry Esav? The same idea. She would have been able to cause Esav to repent. And some commentaries want to explain because Leah came from a home of an evil person, feeling that she did not have maybe that opportunity or the appropriate schus, merit, to be able to transform Esav. However, Dinah, that she grew up in the house of Yaakov, she was taught about how to change and transform and even live amongst evil people. She would then have the ability to transform Esav. The Torah then continues with verse 24. Yabok, the last Rashi, Shemanur was the name of the river. Verse 24, Vayikachem, and he took them, Vayavirem esanachal, and he carried them across the stream, Vayavir es asharloi, and then carried all his possession across the stream as well. Es asharloi, what does that mean? Rashi tells us, Habehema, the animals, Hametaltlin, and all his other items that belong to him. Os atzmek gesher, he made itself like a bridge, that for Noitel Mikani would take some things from one hand, and then he would maniach kan and bring it to the other side. Verse 25. Vayivosar Yaakov levadei. After Yaakov kept on moving things to the other side, Yaakov remained on his own on the north shore of the Yabok River. Vayeovek ish imei, and a man wrestled with him ad alois hashachar, until the break of dawn. Verse 25. Vayivosar Yaakov. Why was Yaakov there? If he already crossed everybody over and everybody moved to the other side of the river, why was Yaakov there himself? So Rashi tells us because Shachach, he forgot pachim ketanim, a few small jugs, the chazar aleim, and he went back to get them, showing us the importance and the value of even something small. He still went back to make sure everything was taken with him. Vayeovek ish, and a person wrestled. Menachem pirish, what is the word vayeovek? Vayisaper ish, meloshin ovak. Because when a person wrestles, because they're wrestling back and forth, the dust and the earth on the bottom of their feet gets throwing all over the place. The linira, it seems, the word vayeovek, when we're talking about wrestling, means that they're connecting, which comes from the idea that when you're wrestling with a person, you're each grabbing around the other person. Loshin Aramiu, and it's more from the Aramaic, Basar Davikube, after he held on to him, connected to him. Vavikle Mevek, Loshin Aniva, like making a knot. Shekein Derech Shneim Shemitz Ansim, because when you have two people wrestling with one another, each one's trying to overpower the next. Lahapili Shreu, to throw the other guy down. Shechoifkai, he grabs him, he hugs him, V'oifkai, and he tries to put him like in a headlock or whatever it may be, V'zrayosav, with his arms to be able to throw him down to the ground. In Pirshu Rabbi Seinu, who Who was the individual that he was wrestling with? The rabbis explained that this was the angel of Esav that tried to kill Yaakov. Vayar kila yachale. And he saw that he was not able to wrestle him. The angel saw that he was not able to overcome Yaakov. Vayiga bekaf yireichai. So he touched Yaakov's hip joint. Vateka kaf yerech Yaakov, and he dislocated his joint because he was wrestling with him. Vayiga bekaf yireichai. What does this mean? Kul yisad yerech, the joint of the hip. Hatakua bekalboisas, which is inserted. That means where you have the hips, the way the bones are, that there's like an opening. It's like a spoon. It's like, and in it sits each joint, one into the other, interlocks one another. That's why he calls it kaf, like a spoon. Al shem shabasar shaleh b'min kaf shal kedera, because the flesh that covers over the bone in the place where it connects it goes up over the bone, like a spoon that covers a spoon that you eat. How it goes up. Tateka, what is the word tateka? Niskaka. He dislocated it from the place that it's connected. For Doimaloi, we have a place similar to that in the verse in Jeremiah. Pantika nafshi memcha loshin asada. Maybe my soul will be removed, dislocated from you. The Mishnah as well. Lekakeya beitzasan l'sharish, to uproot the roots, that nothing should be read, nothing should be remaining. Vayomer. And the angel says to Yaakov, Shalcheni, send me ka'olah hashachar, because the dawn has breaking. Vayomer, and he said, Lo yashalechecha, I will not send you kim berachtani unless you bless me. Ka'olah hashachar, what does it make a difference just because the dawn is breaking? The angel said, Tzarech ani leimer shira b'ayom, I have to go up to God and say my special song that the angels, that they would say song every single morning and sing before God. And he says, I got to be there as the morning breaks. So the angel said to Yaakov, Ma shmecha, what is your name? And he said, Yaakov. Yaakov is my name. What does it mean, Beirachtani? Verse 27. What was Yaakov telling him? He said, Hoidali ala bracha sheberchani avi. You have to agree. You have to acknowledge that the blessings that my father gave me belongs to me. She'esav ma'arid aleya, because you're the angel of Esav, and he's complaining that the blessings are not really mine and not legitimately mine. I want you to acknowledge that these blessings are legitimately mine. So what does the angel tell him? Verse 29. Your name shall no longer be called Yaakov, Kim Yisrael, but Yisrael. Kisarisa elikim, because you have striven with God. V'imanoshim, and with men, vatuchal, and you have prevailed. Verse 29. Lo Yaakov, meaning lo Omer oid. It should not be said shabrachis bo'olacha be'okva v'mirmia. It should not say that you got the blessings in a trickery way, and therefore your name was Yaakov, but only kiyim b'shrara, you got it in glory and kind and in honor, begidul upon him, and in the open without embarrassment. The seifach, and ultimately he asked, what's going to be? He says, even though I'm not really changing your name right now, all I'm doing is acknowledging that the blessings really belong to you. The seifach shakadosh baruch hu nigla alecha b'Beisel, you will see eventually that God will come to you in the city of Beisel. Umachle v'shimcha is going to change your name. V'shamu v'rachecha, over there he's going to bless you. The ani sham eya, I will be there as well. V'oid l'cha alein, and I will acknowledge that the blessings, and I will admit and agree that is yours. V'zeo shekosov, that's why it says in the pasuk in Hosea, V'yoser al malach v'yuchol bacha v'yischan aloi, that Yaakov overcame the angel and was victorious, and the bacha malach, and the angel cried v'yischan aloi, and he begged him. Man yischan aloi, what did he beg him? Basically, he asked, the angel asked, send me now. But when it comes to Beiskal, I'll come there and give you the blessings. Wait until God will speak to me over there in Beiskal, and over there I'll bless you. Yaakov said, no, we're not going to delay. We're not going to push off this blessing. You're going to bless me right now and right here. That's why the verse ends, that he blessed him. The angel was praying, please, wait until we get to Beiskal, and then I'll do it for you. But Yaakov did not, and he forced him to give him the blessings while he was there by the Yabok River. Verse 30. V'imanashim, Rashi, who are the people that you were able to overcome? Esav and Lavan. Fatuchal lahem, and you prevailed, that you were also able to convince them and be successful over them. Verse 30. Vayishal Yaakov, and Yaakov asked, Vayomer, and he said, Agida Nashmecha, now that I gave you my name, tell me your name, he asks the angel. Vayomer, and the angel replied, Lama zeh tishal shmi, why do you ask for my name? Vayivarech oisei sham, and he blessed him there. Verse 30. What's going on over here? What's this conversation? What's the purpose of Yaakov knowing his name? And he tells him, actually Yaakov, the angel says, Ein lanu shem kavua, there's no purpose of you knowing my name, because my name constantly changes. Mishtanim shmoiseinu hakol lefi mitzvos avodas hashlichus. Depending on what our errand is, that sha'anu mishtalchim, that we are being sent for, that's what my name is. And therefore, for me to tell you my name, there's no purpose. We see over here that Yaakov's name was changed from Yaakov to Yisrael. As Chassidus explains and tells us that the Jewish people that are called by the name of Yaakov and Yisrael, Yaakov is Avdi Yaakov, my servant Yaakov. Yisrael is Bani B'chayr Yisrael, my son Yisrael. Each one of them symbolize two dimensions in how we serve God. Serving God as a servant because we have to, with lack of joy. And then they're serving God as Yisrael, as a leader out of joy. Both of them are necessary. That's why we find, in contrast to Avram, where his name was changed, never again do we find his original name. However, Yaakov, we find the original name used again. And that is because in our service to God, first the step is, yes, we serve God because we need to, out of subservience as Yaakov. And eventually we make it to the level of Yisrael, serving God out of joy. But one cannot immediately jump to the level of Yisrael at times, or in any time at what level we may be, and we also need the idea of Yaakov. And for that, Yaakov's name is mentioned again, because that level of Yaakov is always necessary out of subservience, which ultimately will lead to joy. This concludes the Torah reading for the second day of Parshas Vayishlach.